We move then to item 4, which is questions from members of the public, and I will ask the Council Solicitor to introduce those questions.
Thank you, Leader. Is Mrs. Wegg-Prosser in attendance today? I'll ask the question on her behalf. The purpose of the HTP bypass is to induce developers to build in areas adjacent to its route. Reference SMOTs. Over 8,000 school children and their families in Hereford area are being denied modal shift targets because the council insists on building the bypass before setting the targets. How can this be justified when there is no sign of funding for the bypass and air quality continues to deteriorate?
Councillor Price.
Yes, thank you. The purpose of the Hereford Transport Package, including the bypass, is not to induce developers to build, but to reduce congestion and improve journey times and improve regional connectivity, improve safety and health and enable growth. This sustainable modes of travel to school strategy is scheduled for Cabinet consideration in January and will recognise the need for modal shift targets to be set as the Hereford Transport Package is defined. It is wrong to suggest there is no sign of funding. Indeed, some contributions for the development of the Hereford Transport Package have already been secured. The provision of an alternative route to the A49, which currently runs through the centre of Hereford, will be the most significant opportunity to improve air quality for the many people living within the city and children who go to school in central Hereford. In the meantime, individual school travel plans will continue to encourage use of alternative modes of travel. Thank you.
Can I ask the next question, Mr. Palgrave, in attendance?
Yes, my question is the January 2017 OAR for the South Wye Transport Package gives one objective as to reduce the growth in transport-related emissions. There is actually no objective to reduce emissions themselves. How will the performance of the SWTP be measured against this very vague objective? And is it appropriate to be proceeding with a scheme that does not reduce actual emissions when UK carbon emissions rose last year and air quality continues to be poor?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Palgrave. It is entirely appropriate to continue progressing development of the scheme. Air quality will be improved for residents along Belmont Road due to the removal of HGVs. A monitoring and evaluation strategy will be developed which will set out the scheme and will be evaluated against its targets, and this will be signed off by the Department for Transport as part of the full business case for the scheme. Thank you.
Do you have a supplementary, Mr. Palgrave?
I do. Before I give my question, could I just thank Councillor Price for his patience in dealing with all the questions this year and to wish him a happy Christmas.
Well, before you ask your supplementary, I will take that on and wish you a happy Christmas as well, and hope that maybe my answers will manage in some way to suffice that you don't need to ask too many more in the next 12 months. Thank you.
Okay. Well, my supplementary question is, responses to the SWTP consultation indicated strong support for improved bus services. More people on buses should mean fewer cars and reduced emissions. Will a detailed design of the SWTP active travel measures look at improving bus services?
Yes, even though that the consultation has thrown up responses with some actions being more preferred than others, the bus priority lanes in Belmont Road were actually quite lowly supported in relation to other schemes. But we will look at everything when the schemes are coming up as to what we think is the best value for money, and it serves the purpose for what the whole scheme is about, which is to try and get people out and about, actively travelling, walking, cycling, using buses, and generally having better health. So we will do the best we can to take on board your point there. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Palgrave.
The next question is from Professor Wise. Is he in attendance today? I'll read the question on his behalf. Can the Council assure us that a new, truly independent report can be reduced as the earlier 2011 report by Parsons Brinkoff, independent review of the Hereford Relief Road technical studies, was flawed in many respects, but primarily because of the conflict of interest between HCC and Balfour Beatty and the legal consequences that would flow from relying upon that report.
Thank you. There is no need for a new report as the 2011 report is not flawed and there is no conflict of interest. I have to say I looked at this question a number of times to quite understand what it was trying to suggest. But
can I ask members of the public, please don't interrupt while we're trying to get while the member is trying to reply. It has been looked into by the member who's replying now, and there is no conflict of interest. Carry on, Mr. Price.
That is the end of my response to that question.
Thank you. The next question is from Mrs. Wise. Is she in attendance today, please? No, I'll read out the question on her behalf. If the Parsons Brinkoff Relief Road proposal 2011 did not include details of engineering feasibility or costs, could the council justify proceeding with the project irrespective of accurate costing and exact funding sources?
Yes, the only way to obtain accurate costings is to progress the development of the project. Any decision to deliver the project will be informed by accurate costings and available funding. Thank you.
Thank you. The next question is from Mr. Hull. Is he in attendance today?
My question today concerns the Western Relief Road. The volume of HGV traffic flowing on the M5 M6 currently is between 12 and 25 times greater than the A49. Even a small percentage of M5 M6 HGV relief will result in a marked increase in fine particulate pollution. Why has this not been made clear to county residents, particularly with respect to the proposed new housing developments which the road will pass through?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Hull. The important regional role of the Hereford bypass is recognised in the Midlands Connect strategy. With a bypass for Hereford, the A49 could have an enhanced role and provide an alternative for some traffic on the parallel M5-M6. As modelling work is progressed, the scale of this will be established, be made available when it is completed and agreed with Highways England and will inform future consultation. Thank you.
Do you have a supplementary question, Mr. Hall?
I do, on the related subject. What level of M5, M6 motorway relief traffic is considered to be acceptable and viable in the business case for the Western Relief Road, and on what basis was it estimated?
I can't really give you a complete answer that you might expect for that because, as you know, when new roads come into being, there will always be an immediate surge of extra traffic using it. However, when the general motoring public want to go from A to B, they will choose the route which is best suited for their purpose. And this will all come out as part of the assessment from Midlands Connect and Highways England in their assessments going forward as to whether or not the bypass is the priority that they are now currently putting on it. And we will be able to inform you better when we have the business case moving towards the delivery of this project. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Hall.
Thank you.
The next question is from Ms. Seekings. Is she in attendance today? My question also relates to the abysmal proposal for the Western Relief Road and related bypass. When will the planning regulations relating to the cost estimates for development in full business plans be required to include the full long-term costs of such projects, such as the high environmental and health costs associated with pollution that will be caused by this road, the loss of habitat and the loss of biodiversity?
Thank you. The business case will include analysis of the full range of costs and benefits of the scheme. Planning legislation already requires that for a scheme of this size, a full environmental impact assessment is undertaken and a detailed statement must be submitted with the planning application. The Council will comply with all such legislation. Thank you.
Do you have a supplementary?
Yes. I have to say that I'm ashamed to live in a county that is proposing such a backward step. 85% of journeys in Hereford are less than 3 miles by your own research. Why have you not already properly tried out the multiple options, imaginative and creative options for getting people out of cars for those short journeys? Electric light railway, electric buses, park and ride, proper cycling pathways. I am a cyclist. I cycle with my 7-year-old and a 12-year-old, and every day we take our life in our hands. All you propose is to destroy one of the best parts of Hereford in green spaces and providing clean air. All that will result is an increase in traffic both in Hereford and in the county. Why have you not already looked at other options and implemented them?
Well, thank you for your supplementary question. I am of completely different view to yourself in the context that Hereford has one river crossing to deal with all traffic. And I am constantly bombarded by emails and conversations with people. When are you going to deal with another bridge crossing that gives us a bypass around Hereford? And I can tell you now that that comes at a much higher priority than does the suggestions that you are putting forward. However, we will be looking at the environmental and the other alternative actions as part of the active travel plans to try to make the city of Hereford and the neighbouring area a better place to live. But we will be going ahead with a bypass. We will be building a bridge across the river because it is far more supported than the likes of your suggestion. I'm sorry to have to say it, but I am very supportive of building a bypass and making sure that we have infrastructure to meet the needs of a growing economy. Thank you.
I'm disgusted that you're a councillor in our council level.
I have no comment to add to that. If you're disgusted with me as a councillor, well, go and tell all the people in my ward to vote for somebody else, because I am supported by the majority of people in my ward in making sure that we have infrastructure fit for purpose for the 21st century. Thank you.
I suspect that you've not been...
Thank you, Ms. Seeking. You've asked your supplementary question. Thank you.
The new bridge we need is designed in the city, not outside it. Yes.
Can we have the next question, please, Claire?
The next question is from Mr. Trimble. Is he in attendance today? I'll read the question in his absence. Oh, he is, sorry. Please come.
Thank you, Madam.
Yeah.
My question's about the Relief Road. Will the Cabinet be accountable for building the new road close to and upwind of Hereford Community Farm? For the increased cost of healthcare from road pollution, as we have 65 weekly attendees already with ill health and compromised immune systems.
Thank you for the question. The route selection process aims to consider all constraints within the core strategy corridor and determine a short list of route options, and then a preferred route which considers these constraints, and which routes perform best across a range of criteria. In January, Cabinet will consider route options for subsequent consultation. Cabinet is accountable for the decisions it takes. Thank you.
Do you have a supplementary, Mr. Trimble? Thank you.
I don't quite understand your answer to my question. I asked you if you were accountable for the increased health costs that's going to affect people that I work with who already have ill health and other related problems. My question is, can the Cabinet explain the disparity with that answer to the air quality strategy for Hereford and Worcester, section 4.3, which states that the Council commits to ensuring that the Council actions do not have a detrimental effect on air quality. This is a duty that local authorities have to undertake under the Environmental Act 1995. Thank you.
As you have introduced some specific policies, I will have to go and take a look at them and get the officers to come back forward with an answer to meet your question precisely. You're introducing a technical question that wants a technical answer, and I will endeavour to do that in a written answer. Thank you.
Thank you for your answer, but can I just add something that you're not very bothered about the health, not only of the population of Hereford, but the people.
Mr. Trimble, this is not an occasion for your opinion. Mr. Trimble, you've had your question. The supplementary, there are other people waiting to do similarly. Thank you very much. Outrageous. Ladies and gentlemen, we've taken up the allotted 15 minutes for public questions, but we will extend the time to allow the remaining questioners to put their questions and get answers. I turn again to Solicitor.
Thank you. The next question is from Mrs. Palgrave. Is she in attendance today? I'll read the question on her behalf. The SWTP ATM consultation report shows that 20 miles per hour residential areas was the most strongly supported possible improvement. The report notes that this improvement had high levels of strong support evenly distributed. Is there any reason why an immediate start cannot be made on introducing 20 mile per hour limits without waiting for the Southern Link Road to be built?
There's a short answer to this. The report today seeks approval to develop the proposals for active travel measures. If they can be delivered in advance of the Southern Link Road, they will be. Thank you.
The next question is from Mr. Morfitt. Is he in attendance today?
Is that working?
Yes.
My question is this. Active travel measures are designed to address the health issues of the population by reducing car use to reduce emissions, which are causing lung cancer, kidney cancer, asthma, dementia and premature death. City planning recognises the need to address this issue, but it appears to lack any real priority. Why is the priority in reducing emissions to reduce healthcare costs using modern transport solutions so low relative to road building?
Thank you, Mr. Morfitt. Addressing the health issues associated with transport is a priority. Each major transport package project includes a range of active travel measures which complement new infrastructure and together contribute to an improvement in air quality and improving health issues associated with congestion. Thank you.
I do indeed. When will this council recognise that building roads at any cost instead of mass transit non-polluting options is unsustainable? Economic progress and measuring the true cost of the impact of healthcare costs, legal costs and the environmental costs would render its strategy uneconomic, unreasonable, unrealistic and unpopular if the public were made aware of the true full costs. When will you recognise this?
I have to say that I believe that this council, its officers and its councillors fully undertake and understand exactly your sentiment. However, it was interesting. I had a conversation earlier this morning with the Director for Adult Care, and it is so difficult to be able to deal with health issues in a context of you do this, what's the context of the health issues down the road from it. But we do take notice, we do care for care and the output of our decisions in trying to get better solutions for the residents of the county. Your question can have a multiple series of answers, but I do take on board that we do take notice of what you're suggesting. Thank you.
The answer, the modern development, is modern transport technology.
Thank you, Mr. Morfitt.
The last policies prioritise active travel and public transport over private car use. Is the Council working with the Health Authority to measure the health of the population regularly in order to ascertain whether their policies are having an effect on the physical and mental health of the population? And if so, exactly what does this entail?
Yes, thank you for the question. The Council is the responsible body for public health functions. Each year, the Director of Public Health is required to produce a joint strategic needs assessment for approval by the Health and Wellbeing Board. The Herefordshire Clinical Commissioning Group are members of that board. In addition, the Director of Public Health produces an annual report on the health of the county's residents. The data and recommendations within these reports are used to inform scrutiny and decision making. Thank you.
That concludes the submitted questions of the public today, and thank you to the ladies and gentlemen who turned up today to ask them. I now turn to questions from councillors. Do we have any questions from councillors?
No questions have been received today.
Thank you. We then move to item 6, the South Wye Transport Package Active Travel Measures, and I call upon Councillor Price to introduce this item.
I will be brief because I'm sure you don't want to hear my voice for any longer. The purpose of this agenda item is to consider feedback and take next steps for the delivery of the South Wye Transport Plan, the active travel measures. There has been a number of consultations over the years on this project, with particular attention to what measures may come forward. A list of proposed schemes was put forward for the specific consultation that took place from the 12th of September 2016. The questionnaire around the proposed ideas was well responded to, and there was a high level of support for the proposals. Some have come out better than others. The proposed reduction of speed limits in residential areas to 20 miles an hour scored well, and the Belmont Road bus priority is performing less well. The outcomes from the responses have been analysed and are at paragraph 7 in the agenda. Cabinet has been asked to note the level of support for various packages and consider the recommendations to progress the project. It is quite possible for some measures to be delivered before the completion of the South Wye Link Road, and some not being deliverable until the post-road opening, such as the weight restriction on Belmont Road, which would prevent HGV use and direct them to the new road. At paragraph 15, funding has been achieved through the LEP of £27 million within a budget of £35 million. The strategic outline case put to the LEP for funding was that the estimated cost of the road would be in the region of £29.75 million, with public realm scheme projects at £3 million and cycle and walking schemes at £2 million. As the detail of the road and active travel schemes are developed further, these estimates will be updated and presented in the full business case for the project to be signed off by the Department for Transport. We have officers with us today that will take any specific technical questions you might have, and I would ask Mairead Lane first if there are any other points on the agenda that she'd like to address before questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Just to summarise that the full list of details consulted on can be seen in paragraph 7 of the report. Underneath that in paragraph 8, we have summarised some of the other feedback other than the actual response to the consultations, which show that there is support for a bypass following analysis of feedback to the South Wye consultation, and other systems such as light tram, park and ride provision, and those suggestions will be evaluated alongside the options actually consulted on to determine whether they should be taken forward. The purpose of the report is also to delegate authority to undertake further analysis to determine which projects should be delivered alongside the Southern Link Road and comprise the South Wye Transport Package within the business case. And this technical work will consider how each project contributes to the objectives of the South Wye Transport Package and refines the long list of projects down to those which should be delivered alongside the Southern Link Road. Happy to take questions.
Thank you, Mairead. Cabinet members, does anybody have any questions today? Councillor Shaw.
Thank you, Chair. The active travel measures, within the development will enhance, no doubt, the lives and health of residents in the areas which are affected. Could you be a little bit more specific about some measures that might be brought forward prior to the road actually being built, and give some idea of potential timescales in their delivery?
Thank you. There are some of the list presented in paragraph 7. There are certainly some schemes there that don't necessarily rely on the Southern Link Road for implementation. A wider implementation of 20-mile-an-hour speed limits within residential zones, improvements along Home Lacey Road and some other routes remote from Belmont Road could indeed be considered for delivery, as they don't necessarily rely on the Southern Link Road being in place before they are. Some of the schemes along Belmont Road, and indeed the weight restriction on that, which will take HGVs off that route, will need the Southern Link Road to be in place before they can be delivered.
Sorry to press you, but could you give an idea on when, perhaps, for instance, a 20-mile-an-hour range could be introduced? Is that within 12 months, 18 months?
Thank you. Yes, I think the analysis that needs to go forward following this decision could certainly be done within a 12-month period, and any schemes that could be delivered as part of the annual plan in advance of the Southern Link Road could be considered from that point.
Any other questions from members of the Cabinet? Group leaders. Councillor Powers.
Thank you, Leader. As you and Ms Lane will know, I submitted the views and points of our groups ahead of this meeting on Tuesday, and also to the Cabinet members concerned. But I will take the opportunity, just for the record and for the benefit of the public, to outline these as briefly as I can. We're grateful to Mairead Lane and the officer team for the detailed data from the 2016 consultation now provided with this agenda item. We are, however, disappointed to see so little recognition here of the strongly supported proposals additional to the 9 proposed improvement options, in particular for a light tram system and park and ride provision. It is noted in paragraph 8 that these, quote, suggestions received in the feedback will be evaluated alongside the options taken to consultation to determine whether they should also be taken forward, unquote. We trust that due weight will now be given to these strongly supported and excellent suggestions. And if I can add, in the light of your answer to Councillor Shaw's question, that if a TRO for 20-mile-an-hour limit in the SWTP area is going to be proposed in the near future, could this be applied now when it is implemented to the whole city, because there is widespread support across all residential areas for a 20-mile-an-hour limit, and it would save going through another process later on. With regard to recommendation A, quote, a preferred package of ATMs to be delivered with the SLR, unquote, we want to see the ATMs delivered before, or at the latest with the SLR, but definitely not after. I do understand that for technical reasons there may be some of them that can't be applied to that, but in all possible cases they should be done before rather than with. Furthermore, rising budgetary pressures on the actual cost of SLR delivery compared to its estimated and currently allocated costs, whether that's 27 million or, as we've just now heard, 29.7, must not be allowed to take from any of the 8 million allocated within the package budget to ATMs. We agree with the consultation submissions by Here for Hereford and Hereford Transport Alliance that ATMs should be undertaken immediately in line with the DFT's 2014 report claiming the health dividend, the implementation hierarchy of our own local transport plan, and DFT guidance or requirements for road infrastructure implementation. On paragraph 18, we note that the, quote, cost estimates for the SLR and other measures will be further developed as the detailed design of the SLR and the package progresses and will be presented in the full business case, currently scheduled to be submitted autumn 2018, unquote. Whilst this is considerably behind earlier scheduled projections, it must nonetheless be the case that the full business case is for the SWTP as a stand-alone package. We therefore ask for confirmation that no business case justification based on any assumptions of delivery or any projected benefits of a Western Relief Road or bypass will be included in the full business case for the South Wye Transport Package. Paragraph 24, it would have been helpful to have had sight of the detailed risk register which has been developed for the SWTP project with these agenda papers. Please may we now see this risk register. And on the background papers likewise, it would have been helpful to have had the strategic outline business case included here or referenced in the report with a hyperlink. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Powers. Councillor Price, did you wish to respond?
Yes, there's a number of questions in there to which I will reference. In the first paragraph, yes, we are considering all options and considerations, and the full business case document will set out all of the options considered and the detail of the package of measures to be delivered. So that's to your first paragraph. Then when you're referencing to recommendation A, the correct figures are in the strategic outline business case, and further detailed cost estimates will be included in the full business case, which will confirm the package elements when submitted to DFT in 2018. The report today seeks approval to develop the proposals for active travel measures. If they can be delivered in advance of the Southern Link Road, they will be, as has already been suggested from the officers and myself earlier. With regards to paragraph 18, yes, this is confirmed. And paragraph 24, I will send alongside this response to the risk register, etc. I would have to point out to you that the risk register is an operational risk register which is updated as the programme is developed. Background papers, with reference to it, yes, there is a council website link that will take you to it, and I'm going to make sure that you get that link. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I mean, as I said, it would be helpful, not just on this item, but in principle, to have this information available to us, rather than us having to search into the depths of the website and history to find these things, linked in the officer report to these meetings, or provided as a supplement or an appendix. Thank you.
Now, can I come back to that? It's a very interesting perception you have there, because it applies equally both ways. And as you have put your questions forward, yes, we can answer your questions correctly. However, you are seemingly perfectly able to dig into history and every report that's ever been written to ask you questions from, but you don't like it when it's the other way around. So I will take your view on board, and I will send you those details.
I think that's a little unfair, Councillor Price, but a happy Christmas to you too.
It's funny. I've had rather a lot of happy Christmas put towards to me today, and they're all with tongue-in-cheek, I'm afraid, but I can assure you, as long as I've got breath in my body on that day, I will have a happy Christmas. Thank you.
Councillor Bartlett.
Yes, thank you. Just to reiterate that we do want to see all the active travel measures going forward, and thank you for the explanation of which ones are going with the business package and which ones may be coming afterwards. In terms of paragraph 9, I'm hoping that sorts out the ambiguity of undertaking further analysis to determine the projects which should be delivered alongside the Southern Link Road, to mean the timing rather than the fact that not all of them are going to be delivered at some point, some before and some after. And just to reiterate as well that in terms of the residential 20-mile-per-hour limits, there is significant across the county really support for these, and if we've got an opportunity to roll out a much bigger area in terms of the cost benefit, then I think really we should be looking at the whole city in the round. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Bartlett. Are there
can I just have
an answer to the confirmation that all of
I
the
beg it.
9 are going forward? It's just the timing of it. And the TRO for the 20 mile per hour.
Well, I suspect that, I take on board your points, and the things that are there, and they've been prioritised accordingly, and I'm sure that as time goes on, new schemes will come into the equation as well, because as part of the Hereford area plan, there will be all sorts of new things coming forward, but this is specifically for the active travel measures for the Southern Link Road. And on the basis of putting the whole of the residential area of Hereford into a 20-mile-an-hour zone, I've no idea what the cost would be to implement that, and it would be significantly above the budget that is allowed in this particular agenda item. But I'm sure the officers have taken note of it, and we will come back to you in due course as to what's practical and what isn't. Thank you.
If there are no further questions, ladies and gentlemen, then recommendations A and B, all in favour, show. Thank you.